No one ever noticed Jace Weller on the station. He was just a quiet repair technician. He fixed wires, replaced pipes, and cleaned spilled fuel from the floor. While other officers walked with pride, Jace kept his head down. He had no medals, no friends, and no family waiting back home. He lived in a small storage room and ate cold food from packs, and honestly, he didn't mind. Until everything changed in just one morning. Jace was fixing a blinking wall panel near the cargo bay. His hands were dirty and his shirt was soaked in sweat. Suddenly, a loud alarm echoed through the hallway. He turned his head, thinking maybe there was another drill. But then an officer sprinted toward him, Lieutenant Bran. The man looked pale and breathless, like he had seen a ghost. "There you are," Bran shouted, grabbing Jace by the shoulder. "Get to the shuttle bay. Now, you've been promoted to captain." Jace stared in confusion. "What, me?" he said, blinking fast. There must be a mistake. Bran didn't explain. He dragged Jace down the hall. Past confused guards and curious crew, they reached the shuttle bay where a sleek black transport ship was waiting. Two armored soldiers stood beside the door, nodding silently. One of them said, "Commander Weller, your ship is ready." Jace had never been called that in his life. He looked around again, sure this had to be a joke. But no one was laughing. Bran handed him a sealed card, stamped with a golden mark. "Orders straight from command, don't argue," he said, and turned away. The shuttle lifted off without delay. Jace sat quietly, heart pounding, hands shaking. Slightly, he stared at the card, afraid to open it. "Captain of the warship Solstice?" he whispered. He didn't even know where that ship was docked. The ride was short, but silent. The stars outside looked colder than usual. Finally, the shuttle slowed and turned toward something massive in the darkness. A shape appeared, black and silver, floating like a giant beast in space. The warship Solstice. She looked like an old ghost from the past, but Jace couldn't look away. Something about the ship felt familiar as he stepped onto the docking bridge. A strange warmth spread through his chest. He walked toward the airlock doors, which opened with a smooth hiss. Inside, the lights were dim, the walls humming quietly. The ship didn't feel like a machine, it felt alive. He took a deep breath and entered the central hallway. That's when he heard footsteps, soft but steady. He turned and saw them, his new crew, and they were not human. 7 figures stood in the hallway, tall and graceful. Their skin shimmered in strange colors, blue, gold, violet. Their eyes glowed faintly in the low light. Each one wore armor that looked like it was grown, not made. They stood in silence, watching him without emotion. Then one stepped forward. She had silver hair and a voice like wind through glass. "Welcome, Commander," she said, bowing slightly. "We have waited a long time." Jace didn't know what to say. He looked from one face to another. They weren't smiling, but they weren't hostile either. Who are you?" he asked, voice shaking. The woman tilted her head. "We are the crew of Solstice, bonded by code and blood," she replied. "We follow only one captain, you." Jace tried to step back, but the door behind him had already sealed shut. "I think there's been a mistake," he whispered. "I'm just a repairman. I've never led anyone." Another warrior stepped forward, this one with glowing green eyes. "You carry the mark, the command seal," she said, pointing to the card in his hand. Jace looked down, realizing the card had melted into glowing lines across his fingers. It wasn't just a card, it was a key. Somehow the ship had accepted him. But why me? He asked, more to himself than to them. No one answered. The ship vibrated gently beneath his feet. Then, without warning, the lights turned red. A calm voice spoke from the walls. "Course locked. Departure in 60 seconds. The alien crew began walking to their stations without a word. Jace stood frozen, his mind racing. He had been nothing, no one, and now he was commander of a warship filled with alien warriors. He didn't know who had chosen him. He didn't know what mission lay ahead. But he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't going back. Not now. Not ever. Jace stood alone in the command chamber, feeling like a child who had wandered into a dream too big for him. The floor pulsed gently under his boots, as if the ship itself had a heartbeat. In front of him, the control screens lit up one by one, showing systems, sectors, and stars he had never seen before. Behind him, the alien crew watched him silently, their faces unreadable. He had expected machines or officers in uniform, but instead he found living legends in strange skin. They looked like warriors from a forgotten world, yet here they were, waiting for orders from a confused human repairman. He turned to face them, trying to clear his throat. "I don't understand any of this," he said quietly. "I don't even know how to fly this thing." The silver-haired woman stepped forward again, her long cape flowing behind her like mist. "You are not expected to fly the ship," she said, her voice smooth and calm. "You are expected to lead." Jace blinked, unsure what that meant. "How can I lead when I don't even know your names?" he asked. The crew exchanged glances, and then the introductions began, not with words, but with gestures. One raised her arm, revealing bright, glowing marks across her skin. "I am Yelri," she said in a low voice. "I speak to the engines." Another, taller and heavier in armor, placed her hand to her chest. "I am Vosha, shield and fire," she said firmly. A smaller one stepped forward, her hair floating like silk in zero gravity. "Call me Syra," she whispered. "I read paths. Before they happen." Each name felt like a story locked in a cage. He could tell these warriors had lived through things far beyond his imagination. And now, somehow, they were trusting him. Jace noticed something strange about their eyes. Not just the color, but the way they looked at him. Not with fear or doubt, but with memory, as if they had seen him before. He shook the thought away, assuming it was just nerves. He turned toward the large front screen, where stars drifted slowly like dust. The ship was moving now, though he hadn't given any order. "Where are we going?" he asked. Syra stepped forward, fingers dancing across a crystal panel. "The ship follows an old path, locked in since long ago," she said. "A signal woke us, and that signal came from you." Jace frowned, confused. "I never said anything," he said. Yelri nodded once, her expression unreadable. "Your presence is the signal. Your blood, your breath, your voice." He looked down at his hands, still marked by the strange golden lines. The ship had chosen him. But why? He had never served in any war, never trained in combat. And yet the crew followed him without question. He walked slowly through the corridors, the crew staying close but silent. The walls were lined with alien carvings, symbols that glowed faintly. When he passed, he reached what looked like the dining hall, and the scent of unfamiliar food filled the air. Plates were already arranged. The crew sat as if this was routine. He joined them hesitantly, surprised by the warmth in the room. Despite their fearsome looks, they acted like old friends sharing a quiet meal. No one laughed, but no one glared either. They watched him, curious but calm, like he was the missing piece in a puzzle that had waited too long. As the ship drifted through the stars, Jace finally sat in the captain's chair. It wrapped around him like it remembered his shape. He touched one of the side controls, and the screen changed. A recording appeared, showing an old human general speaking to the camera. "This is the Solstice Project," the man said, his voice deep and slow. "If you're watching this, the last key has been activated." Jace leaned forward, heartbeat rising. The recording continued. "Solstice holds the last of our ancient warrior allies, hidden for decades. You are now the bridge between two worlds." The screen went black. Jace looked at the crew again, and suddenly they didn't feel so foreign. The silence between them had changed. It felt like trust. But just as he opened his mouth to speak, the ship's lights flickered. A new alarm buzzed, soft but urgent. Vosha stood immediately, her hand on her weapon. "There's something in the outer sector," she said sharply. "Unmarked signal. Following us, Jace stood too, no longer the confused repairman. He looked toward the stars, toward the shadow that chased them. He didn't know what was coming, but he knew this: whatever they faced, he wouldn't face it alone. Jace didn't sleep that night. He sat in the captain's chair, staring at the glowing screens. The warship Solstice moved through space like a silent ghost. Its engines hummed with a rhythm that felt almost alive. Behind him, the crew worked. In silence, each one focused, but something was wrong. He could feel it, like a cold finger brushing the back of his neck. A presence that didn't belong. The signal still followed them. Unmarked, no ID, no communication, just a quiet shadow, tailing them through deep space. "It's not a ship," Sierra whispered, watching the long-range scans. "It's something older." Jace didn't like the way she said that, like she had seen it before, but she gave no more details. And he didn't press later. Yelry brought him to the war room. The table in the center flickered and glowed with a star map. A red blinking dot marked their next stop. An empty sector called Zone 9 Delta. "No one goes there," Vosha said, crossing her arms. "It's where warships vanish." Jace raised an eyebrow. "Then why are we going?" Yelry pointed to the map. "There's a message buried in this system," she said. "Locked for decades, but triggered the moment you boarded Solstice." Jace looked closer, and his breath caught. The signal wasn't random, it was calling him by name. He reached for the controls, but the ship responded before he touched them. It turned slightly, adjusting course toward the red zone. Jace stepped back, eyes wide. "I didn't do anything." Yelry's voice was calm, almost sad. "The ship knows what must be done. No one asked for permission." The warriors returned to their stations, armor clicking softly. Sierra moved toward the front with slow steps. "I don't like this place," she murmured. "It feels like memory." As they entered the sector, the stars outside dimmed, not from distance but from something darker. It was like flying into the mouth of a sleeping beast. Jace felt the pressure in his head increase. A strange sound played in the background low, like a heartbeat wrapped in static. He touched the armrest, and a file opened on its own. Inside were old mission orders, with dates from decades ago. At the top, the name Solstice Project glowed in faded blue, and below that his family name, not just Weller, but his father's full name, listed as the original commander. Jace froze. His father had died in a mining accident when he was 10. At least, that's what everyone said. But the file told a different story. His father had been chosen to lead this same ship, and now, years later, his son had unknowingly taken the same seat. A cold shiver ran through his body. The crew must have known. They had never looked surprised to see him, only relieved. The calm didn't last. Red lights flashed across the ceiling, and a deep alarm echoed through the ship. Something had arrived. The shadow was no longer behind them. It was above them. Huge, silent, and ancient. Vosha shouted, "Shields up!" As she took command of the weapons panel, Jace rushed to the screen, but all he saw was black. Black metal, black stone, or maybe something not built at all. Sierra whispered, "It's not a ship, it's a grave," without warning. A beam of light shot down through space. It didn't strike the ship, but scanned it. As if searching, the crew froze, their glowing eyes wide with fear. "Don't move," Yelry whispered. "The thing remembers." Jace didn't understand, but he obeyed. The scan passed through him, but it didn't burn or hurt. It just paused, like it recognized him. Then the beam vanished, and the object above them began to move away. No one spoke, not even after the silence returned. Jace finally turned to the crew. "What was that?" Sierra gave a haunted look. "The reason Solstice was hidden for so long," she said. "That thing destroyed every ship that tried to wake us. But it didn't destroy us." Jace said quietly. Yelry nodded slowly. "Because it saw you," she said, "and it's waiting for what comes next." Jace didn't feel lucky. He felt like a target. But one thing was clear now. He wasn't just here by mistake. Something old, something powerful, had been set in motion the moment he stepped aboard. And now the past was catching up with all its secrets and all its monsters. Asterisk, the crew stood frozen, eyes still locked on the fading black shape that had scanned their ship. Jace sat in the command chair, his hands gripping the armrest so tightly his knuckles turned white. The warship Solstice was silent now, no alarms, no noise, just the deep hum of energy moving through the walls. But it didn't feel like peace. It felt like holding your breath while a predator circled in the dark. Suddenly, a sharp ping echoed. Across the bridge, Sierra's fingers danced across the controls. "There's a new signal," she said softly. "It's nearby, buried inside the dead zone." A blue dot appeared on the screen, pulsing slow and steady. Jace leaned forward, staring at it. "What is it?" he asked. Yelry answered with a whisper, "Survivor beacon." That word made everyone pause. The beacon wasn't new, it was decades old. Its signal had been looping in silence for years, forgotten by time, unnoticed by scanners, except now. It was calling out again, calling to them. Jace stood and pointed at the screen. "Take us there," he said, no longer unsure. The crew nodded and adjusted the ship's course. No one questioned his command, not anymore. As Solstice moved through the cold fog of space, the stars seemed to fade completely. Only the beacon pulsed ahead, like a single heartbeat in a dead body. They arrived at the location within minutes. At first, they saw nothing, only drifting metal and broken panels. Then out of the darkness, a shape emerged, a ship, shattered in half, floating lifelessly. Its nameplate was barely readable, but Jace could make out the letters, USS Calthrin. Sierra gasped. "That ship vanished 25 years ago," she said. Jace stared harder, his voice quiet. "My uncle served on that ship." No one said a word. The beacon was still active, blinking from inside the wreckage, which meant something, or someone was still alive. The decision was fast. Jace joined the boarding team. Along with Vosha and Syra, they flew over in a small shuttle, lights flashing through the black emptiness. The wreck was cold and dark, its hallways twisted like broken bones. They moved slowly, weapons drawn, breath tight. "Be careful," Vosha warned. "Wrecks can lie." As they entered the control room, they found it, a stasis pod barely powered, hidden behind fallen wires and smashed glass. Inside was a figure, an alien girl, unconscious, glowing faintly in the dim light. Sierra stepped closer, scanning her with a trembling hand. "She's alive," she whispered. "But she's not like us." Jay stared at the girl's face. Something about her looked familiar, even though he was sure they had never met. Vosha moved to guard the entrance. "Something's wrong," she muttered. "She shouldn't be the only one here." Just then, a low growl echoed from the hallway, metal creaked, and something scraped against the wall. Jace raised his weapon. "Get her to the shuttle," he ordered. Sierra unlocked the pod, and the alien girl stirred weakly, her lips moving without sound. The growl came again, louder, closer. Vosha shouted, "Move now!" They ran through the wreck, the girl floating between them, barely awake, behind them. Something chased in the shadows. Jace didn't see it fully, just flashes of black limbs. Too many teeth. The shuttle door opened. They jumped inside, and Vosha fired the engines. The wreck shrank behind them as they escaped. Just before it vanished from sight, Jace looked back and saw glowing eyes in the dark, watching them, not angry, not hungry, just waiting, back on Solstice. The alien girl lay on the medbed, her eyes still closed. Sierra worked quickly, trying to keep her stable. Jace stood nearby, silent, thinking. The beacon hadn't just led them to a survivor. It had led them to a message, hidden inside the girl. A warning, maybe, or a key. She wasn't part of the past. She was part of what came next, and the thing in the wreck. That wasn't just a monster. It was guarding something. Something not meant to be found. The alien girl lay still, her breath soft and shallow. Jace sat beside her, unsure of what to say. Her skin shimmered in pale colors, shifting slowly like clouds. Sierra wiped sweat from her brow as she finished another scan. She's stable. But her vitals are strange, she whispered. Something inside her is. Waking up, Jace leaned closer, watching her face. There was something peaceful about her even now. But his gut told him this girl carried more than just memories. She was like a locked door. And someone had given him the key, just then. Her. Eyes fluttered open, glowing a soft white. She stared at the ceiling, lips parted as if trying to speak. Jace leaned in. Can you hear me? Her head turned slowly, eyes locking onto his. You're not him, she said weakly, her voice barely a whisper. Then, just as quickly, she passed out again. Those words stuck in Jace's chest. Not him. Who was she expecting? His father? Someone else from the past? Questions swirled in his head, but there was no time to answer them. Red lights flashed suddenly, alarms blaring across the ship. Vosha's voice rang out over the comms. We're under attack. Front sector, incoming fire. Jace bolted out of the med bay and ran to the command bridge. The crew was already at their stations, weapons primed and shields rising. On the main screen, a fleet of dark ships had appeared, silent and sharp. Like knives in the night. They were waiting for us, Yelry growled. This isn't random. Jace took his seat. Hands moving fast now. Raise shields, charge main cannon, he commanded. Solstice responded like it had been waiting for him to finally act. The ship pulsed with light, its systems moving faster than ever before. The alien warriors looked calm, but their eyes burned with fire. They had trained for this moment all their lives. Now they would fight for it. The enemy ships moved in fast, firing bright red plasma bolts. Solstice shook but held strong, its armor humming with old power. Vosha fired back, a storm of light. Blasting from the ship's core, one enemy exploded into pieces, then another, but more came, circling them like wolves. We can't hold forever, Yelry said, voice tight. We're outnumbered. Jace stared at the enemy ships, searching for a weakness. Then he remembered the girl's words. You're not him. She had known someone else, someone these ships feared. He ran back to the medbay, knelt beside the girl. If you know something, anything, I need it now, he said, desperate. Her eyes opened again, just slightly. She reached up, touched his forehead gently. A spark passed between them. Suddenly, memories that weren't his filled his mind. Old battles, hidden missions, ancient secrets. He saw his father, younger, brave, and commanding this very ship. He saw the girl beside him, smaller, laughing. She had known his father, she had fought beside him, and she had seen him fall. Jace gasped and fell backward. Breath stolen, the girl sat up now, energy surging through her body. He left me behind, she said, her voice louder now. But you came back. She stood slowly, glowing brighter by the second. The crew entered the room. Shocked but ready, the girl looked at them and nodded once. They're after the core, she said. If they get it, all life in this sector will vanish. Jace stood too, steady now. Then we fight, he said. Together. No one questioned him. Not anymore. The girl extended her hand. Command me, she said. And as their palms touched, the ship responded louder, faster, stronger. The real battle was about to begin. But this time, the warship Solstice had its heart and its captain. Asterisk, the warship drifted in silence after the battle. Wreckage floated outside like dark snow. The enemy fleet had pulled back, not destroyed, just waiting. Jace stood in the center of the bridge, hands clenched at his sides. The alien girl stood beside him, calm now, her glow soft and steady. She had saved them, but her power had come at a cost. Several systems on Solstice had gone dark. The ship was wounded, and so was the crew, down in the lower deck. 2 warriors worked to repair the damaged power grid. Sparks flew, and smoke filled the air. Vosha moved from console to console, checking readings with a tense jaw. Something's wrong, she said into the comms. This isn't just damage, it's corruption. Jace joined her minutes later, Sierra at his side. "What do you mean?" he asked. Vosha pointed to the glowing wires. "They're alive, remember? The ship's core is part organic," she explained. "And it's remembering something painful." Jace didn't understand fully, but he listened. Sierra knelt by the wall and placed her hand on the ship's skin. Her eyes fluttered shut, and then she gasped. "There's a room sealed beneath the main deck," she whispered. "No one's been in there for years, maybe decades." The alien girl stepped forward from the shadows. "That room holds the memory of what happened before," she said. "To your father, those." Words hit Jace like a punch to the chest. He had seen flashes of his father's past, his leadership, his bravery, and his end. But nothing had been clear. Now the girl was telling him the truth waited in a sealed room below, without another word. He followed her through the dark corridors. The rest of the crew stayed behind, watching with quiet eyes, as if they already knew what he would find. The door to the sealed chamber was covered in strange markings. When Jace touched it, the symbols lit up and twisted open like petals. Inside was a small room, round and cold. In the center stood a single chair and a recording sphere. The girl walked forward and activated it. A hologram appeared, flickering. Jace's father stood there, young, proud, and afraid. "This is Commander Weller," the recording said. "If you're seeing this, I'm likely gone." Jace stepped closer, heart pounding. "I was given command of Solstice after it bonded with me," the man continued. "But the Council lied to us. This ship wasn't built to fight. It was built to seal something away." Jace froze. The recording showed maps, star charts, and then a prison. An ancient force hidden in the heart of the galaxy. A being so powerful it could bend reality. The Council had used Solstice to lock it down, and used people like his father to guard the lock. But the bond takes more than command. The hologram said, voice weakening, "It takes memory, love, sacrifice. And if that balance breaks..." The hologram glitched, then shut off. Jace stood in silence, breathing hard. The girl turned to him slowly. "That's why your father vanished," she said. "He didn't die. He gave himself to the ship." Jace staggered back, eyes wide. "He's part of Solstice now?" he asked, voice shaking. The girl nodded. "In every wire, every wall he's watching, guiding." For a moment, Jace didn't know what to feel, but deep inside, he felt warmth, a presence that had always been there, every time he touched the controls, every time he gave a command. He hadn't been alone. Just then, an alert sounded soft and distant. Syra's voice came over the comm. "The enemy is moving again, preparing something big." Jace looked at the girl. "What do we do?" She met his eyes with a calm fire. "We open the final chamber," she said. "The one your father never could." Jace felt fear rise in his chest. But beside that fear was a new strength. He wasn't the same technician who used to fix broken wires. He was the son of the last true captain, and Solstice was ready for what came next. The chamber was colder than the rest of the ship. It felt older too, like time moved differently there. Jace stood at the entrance, his hand hovering above the panel. The alien girl was beside him, silent, her glowing eyes full of warning. Behind them, the crew waited, not speaking, not blinking. They all knew what was hidden inside. The final chamber, the one even Jace's father had feared to open. He touched the panel, and it melted into light. The door slid open without a sound, revealing a vast dark room. There were no lights, no machines, only a platform in the center. Upon it sat a strange object, a crystal sphere floating inches above the floor. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Jace stepped inside, every part of him alert. He didn't know why, but the sphere felt alive as he approached. Voices whispered in the back of his mind, not words, feelings. Grief, rage, loneliness. He reached out, and the moment his fingers brushed the surface, the world changed. He was no longer in the chamber. He was standing in a memory, a battlefield in space. Fire and death all around. His father stood there, younger, injured, screaming orders. The alien girl stood beside him, Her armor cracked, her hands glowing. They were sealing something away. A great shadow, and that shadow was fighting back. The memory collapsed, and Jace was thrown backward. The crew rushed to him, helping him to his feet. "The lock is breaking," Syra said, her voice shaking. "It knows you're here." Outside the ship, the stars began to move, not from speed but from bending. Space itself warped as the shadow returned, the same ancient force that had killed fleets, consumed worlds, and now it was here. Jace stood tall, his body still aching. He looked at his crew, and saw no fear, only trust. "We don't run," he said firmly. "We end this." The alien girl placed her hand on the sphere, and it cracked, not broken, but opened. Light spilled out, pure and warm, the soul of the ship, the final weapon. But only one person could activate it, Jace. He stepped forward, placing both hands on the light. The ship roared around him, systems coming online, not just weapons, but something more. Energy, memory, unity. He could feel his father inside the circuits, guiding him. He could feel the crew standing behind him like anchors in the storm. The shadow outside roared, sound that had no end. It launched toward them, endless in shape and size. Jace didn't move. He closed his eyes and whispered, "For Solstice. For my father, for all of us," the ship answered. A beam of light shot from its heart. Not a weapon but truth. It pierced the shadow and wrapped around it. Not to destroy, but to contain. The shadow fought, screaming through space and time. But it was too late. The light grew brighter and brighter until all was white, and then silence. When Jace opened his eyes, the stars were back. The shadow was gone. The crew stood in stunned silence, eyes wide. Syra dropped to her knees, laughing and crying at once. Vosha punched the wall and smiled. Yelri simply nodded. "It's over," she said. Jace looked at the sphere. It had gone dark, its purpose complete. The alien girl touched his shoulder gently. "Your father would have been proud," she whispered. Jace didn't reply, but his heart was full, not just of victory, but of something greater, belonging. He wasn't just a technician anymore. He was the captain of Solstice, and with him stood the galaxy's last warrior crew, not human, not alien, just family.